My brother, Dale, came down from the ridge carrying a girl who was limp as a doll, all boneless-like. My mama, Brenda, she took one look and decided to pickle her in a big crock to make snake shine. Dale, after sneaking a few jars of that very shine, got wild in the head. He fished the serpent girl out of the brine, had his way with her, and then called over his pack of good-for-nothing friends. They left her with barely a breath in her body. Mama told me to drag her back up the ridge and dump her. But right before she died, she bit me right down to the bone, and then smiled a real satisfied kind of smile. The serpent girl lay on the dirt floor, slick with moonshine and covered in a mess of purple and green bruises. Mama saw her and just about blew a gasket. How was she supposed to make her prize-winning shine with the main ingredient all ruined like this? She grabbed a broom and went to lay into Dale, but he just grinned, knowing he was the favorite. He slunk over and started rubbing her shoulders, all sweet-like. Now, Mama, there ain't many women in this holler. And this one, she's got a look that just pulls a man in. Can't blame me for losing control. Dale's buddies, the town's resident trash, who spent their days peeping on widows or cornering new brides, all nodded along like bobbleheads. The girl, woman's head, snake's body, was weak, her moans sounding almost like she was asking for it. Mama heard and spat on the floor. A damn whore, even as a snake. She's ruined for the shine now. When you're all done with her, get her up on the ridge and leave her for the buzzards. Dale's eyes lit up. He and his friends hauled the serpent girl back into the bedroom, and soon enough, we could hear her crying out in pain. I couldn't stand it. I tried to speak up. It ain't right, Mama. Don't let Dale do this to her. You'd think I just cursed God himself. Mama's face went purple with rage, and she came at me with that broom. What? You want her for yourself? Think you're gonna marry that thing? Trying to steal from your brother. You worthless piece of trash. She beat me till my head was bleeding, but I didn't dare fight back. That only ever made it worse. When she finally stopped, panting for breath, her eyes were full of a poison I knew all too well. A snake son and a snake girl, she sneered. A match made in hell. Her words hit me like a stone. Snake son? I'd heard the whispers around town before that a bunch of snakes showed up the day I was born, but I looked down at my legs. I had 2 of them, same as anyone else. I clutched my bleeding head and stumbled toward the west room, our storage shed, really, where I slept on a cot next to my grandma, who'd been stuck in a chair since her stroke. Folks in town said my daddy died in an accident right when I was born, and the shock of it is what took Grandma's mind and body. My mama, Brenda, never remarried, which was strange in a place like Hollow Creek, where women were scarce. A few years later, she came home with Dale, and from that day on, he was the sun and the moon. Me, her actual flesh and blood, I was just dirt under her shoe. She treated Grandma about the same. Grandma saw me holding my head and started cooing, making little hushing sounds like I was a toddler again. She was the only one in this whole house who ever showed me any kindness. Her mind was mostly gone, though. She kept calling me Bo, which was my daddy's name. Everyone said I was the spitting image of him. I tried to correct her a few times, but she never listened, so I just let it be. She cleaned my wound with a damp rag and patted my back, her touch a small comfort. The anger toward Mama started to cool in my chest. Then I remembered what she called me. Grandma, I whispered. Am I really born of a snake? Her hand froze on my back. She let out a long, weary sigh. Bo, you're a grown man now. I suppose it's time you knew. But before she could say another word, a terrified scream from Dale cut through the night. I rushed outside. Dale and his friends were frantically pulling up their jeans, their faces pale as ghosts. The front door was wide open. On the floor, the serpent girl lay in a pool of blood, her breathing shallow. She was almost gone. Mama came running out too. Dale was crying like a baby. We was just having some fun, trying something new. We didn't think she was so fragile. She's dying. Mama saw how scared he was, and her whole face softened. She wrapped her arms around him, stroking his hair. Sure, my boy, don't you worry. If she dies, she dies. It's no big deal. It'll be dark soon. We'll just dump her up on the ridge. Hearing that, Dale and his friends calmed right down, their usual cocky smirks returning to their faces. Mama's poisonous eyes landed on me. Get an old tarp. When it's full dark, you take her up the ridge. I was scared, but I was more scared of her. I just nodded. I went to the shed with a long face and grabbed a ragged blue tarp. Grandma had heard everything. She pressed a small, smooth stone tied on a leather cord into my hand. A lucky charm. That serpent girl ain't from around here, she whispered, her voice urgent. The Serpent King will come looking for his own. The ridge is heavy with bad spirits tonight. You keep this charm on you, and on your way back, you stop by the old chapel and say a prayer. I nodded again. The old chapel was a crumbling stone building up on the ridge. They say the woman it was built for was the first in these parts to work with herbs and roots, a real conjure woman. The whole town used to worship there, but now it was just an abandoned ruin. After dark, I hoisted the serpent girl onto my back. She was heavy, impossibly so, like carrying a full-grown man. I was wheezing by the time I made it to the clearing on the ridge. A thick fog was rolling in, cold and spooky. I got scared, threw her off my back, and turned to run. But something grabbed my ankle. It was her. She had just a flicker of life left, but her grip was like iron. Her snake eyes, cold and ancient, fixed on me. Then she lunged, sinking her teeth into my leg. I screamed, trying to kick her off, but she wouldn't let go. I pulled out the hatchet I carried for cutting firewood and swung it, again and again, until she went limp. In the moonlight, I saw a ghostly smile lingering on her lips. It was the creepiest thing I'd ever seen. I scrambled back home, dragging my wounded leg behind me. The house was dark. Mama and Dale were already asleep, not a care in the world about whether I made it back alive. A bitter lump formed in my throat. I limped back to the shed. Grandma was awake, waiting. The fear and the pain all came rushing out. I collapsed in her lap, telling her what happened between sobs. Her eyes went wide with terror. She pulled up my pant leg to look at the wound. It was deep, right down to the bone. But then I saw it. The piece of my shin bone that was showing wasn't straight like a human's. It was curved, twisted like the skeleton of a snake. Grandma reached under her cot and pulled out a dusty wooden box. Inside were 3 sticks of dark, hand-rolled incense. They smelled faintly of musk and something reptilian. A small, yellowed piece of paper was tucked beside them. She carefully took one out. "This is our family's secret," she explained, her voice trembling. "Grave bone incense, made with snake bone and 100 different rare herbs. It can speak to spirits and drive off lesser evils." She lit the stick. The white smoke didn't rise. It slithered, drifting slowly down toward my leg. As it coiled around the wound, the torn flesh began to knit itself back together. I stared, speechless. It was magic. I wanted to ask her more, but as the wound closed, Grandma seemed to age 10 years right before my eyes. She slumped over, unconscious. I panicked and ran to get Mama. Waking her up was a big mistake. She slapped me hard across the face twice. My lip split, but I was desperate. Through a mouthful of blood, I mumbled for her to go get Doc Miller. Doc Miller was our town's jack-of-all-trades medicine man. If you had a fever or a cough, you went to him for some herbal remedy. Mama started cursing. "One old cripple and one useless brat. Always causing trouble for me. You'd both be better off dead." But I guess she was worried about what the neighbors would say, so she stomped off to fetch the doctor. Luckily, Doc Miller said Grandma was just exhausted and had fainted. Nothing serious. When Mama heard that, she let loose another string of curses before going back to bed. Doc Miller saw me standing there, head bowed, lip bleeding. He sighed and handed me a small pouch of herbs. "The sins of your grandma are all falling on you, son." I tried to ask him what he meant, but he just shook his head and left. After he was gone, I picked up the wooden box. What sin did Grandma commit that made Mama hate her so much? And if there's gravebone incense, is there a different kind? What would it do? I'd have to wait for Grandma to wake up to get any answers. For the next morning, I didn't get a chance to ask Grandma anything. Mama woke me at dawn to help her load up the snake shine. It was her specialty, and anyone in the county having a wedding or a big party bought it from her. Henderson's boy was getting married. Henderson was the closest thing we had to a mayor, and his house was all decorated with lights and ribbons. A real festive mood. His son looked just like him, clean-cut and polite. He was a college boy, marrying a college girl. They had a bright future, not like the rest of us stuck in this forgotten holler. Everyone was all smiles, except Mama. I saw her watching the new bride, a cold little smirk on her face. I was run ragged serving drinks and food. A table of men were downing the snake shine like it was holy water, not even bothered by the coiled serpents in the jars. Dale and his buddies were there too, drinking from a separate batch. I figured it was the one the serpent girl had been in. They saw me just standing there and decided to have some fun by trying to force-feed me some of the shine. But the thought of that girl floating in that same jar made my stomach turn. I threw up all over Dale's new shirt. He didn't care that it was Henderson's big day. He started wailing on me right there in the yard. He was big and soft from being spoiled, and I was no match for him. I curled up on the ground as the kicks and punches rained down. The townspeople just stood around and watched. Only Doc Miller tried to step in. But Dale was on a rampage and wouldn't listen to anyone. The commotion finally brought Henderson out of the house. He yelled at Dale to stop, but Mama wasn't about to let anyone talk down to her precious boy. She got right in Henderson's face and started screaming at him. Strangely, Henderson seemed almost scared of her. He just laughed it off and smoothed things over. With the show over, everyone went back to eating and drinking, leaving me curled up in the dirt. Doc Miller sighed and helped me to my feet, taking me to his place to patch me up. As he dabbed my cuts with antiseptic, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Doc, am I not her real son? Why does she love Dale so much and hate me? Doc Miller let out a long breath. It's your grandma's sin, Caleb. Before you were born, you had 3 older sisters. Your grandma drowned every last one of them in a bucket of creek water and ash. You think your mama can ever forgive that? But I'm her son. Why doesn't she love me? When you were born, something strange happened. Your mama, for reasons nobody knows, ran up to the old chapel on the ridge. They found her there, mouth full of ashes, holding a handful of burning herbs. Her stomach was torn wide open, and there were snakes. Snakes crawling out of her. She was terrified, out of her mind. But your grandma had done some root work, said this baby would be a boy, and she was hell-bent on saving you. I don't know all the details of what happened next. All I know is your daddy was found dead from a snake bite, your grandma had a stroke, and you were born perfectly fine. I was stunned. So that's how I came into this world. No wonder Mama called me Snake Son. No wonder she hated the sight of me. Seeing my face, Doc Miller patted my head. In this whole town, only he and Grandma were ever kind to me. I soaked up that little bit of warmth. Suddenly, he asked, "You didn't drink any of that snake shine today, did you?" I shook my head. The memory of the serpent girl made me sick. Doc Miller gave me a strange, secret smile. Anyone who drank it is in for a world of hurt. The next day, he was proven right. People all over town started vomiting and cramping. But they weren't just throwing up. They were throwing up tiny, writhing snakes. You could look at their stomachs and see them, clear as day, through their skin, swimming around inside. The same people who usually ignored me, or worse, bullied me since I was a kid, were now suffering. In a dark, ugly part of me felt a thrill of pleasure. Everyone stormed over to Henderson's place, demanding answers. Henderson had drunk his fair share too, and he was looking at his own belly in horror. "Go see Brenda's mother-in-law," he shouted. "Go get the old woman." Well, I heard they were coming for Grandma. I ran home. She had woken up, but she was weaker, more confused. All she did was whisper, "Bo, my son." My heart ached. If Daddy were alive, things wouldn't be like this. The mob of townspeople arrived. When they saw that me and Grandma were perfectly fine, their eyes filled with a furious, jealous rage. Especially Mama. Seeing Dale clutching his stomach in agony, she went berserk. She grabbed a stick from the yard and started beating me with it. "Was it you? Are you jealous of your brother? Did you poison him? You're the one who carried that shine to the party." Her words were like gasoline on a fire. The villagers' faces turned ugly. They just stood there and watched her whip me. I scrambled away, trying to protect my head, my back stinging with red welts. Maybe seeing me getting beaten shocked her back to reality, because Grandma suddenly became clear-eyed. "Stop hitting Bo," she rasped. "I know how to cure you." She pulled out the wooden box again and lit the last gravebone incense stick in front of them. The magic was real. As the smoke washed over them, they all began to retch, spitting up the little snakes. Their stomachs slowly went back to normal. Everyone saw how powerful the incense was. Their eyes were glued to the box. But Mama was the first to act. She snatched the one remaining stick of incense out of the box. She was the meanest widow in the county. Nobody dared to cross her. The others backed down. Then Grandma said something that sealed Mama's fate. Daughter-in-law. If you hadn't been the one to bring that serpent girl here, she never would have put a curse on this town before she died. Just like that, the mob turned on Mama. They screamed at her, clawed at her. My heart was frozen solid. I just stood there, pretending to be too scared to move. Just as they were about to tear her apart, Henderson stepped in and broke it up, sending everyone home with a few sharp words. I glanced at Mama. A strange, triumphant light flickered in her eyes. After everyone left, Grandma beckoned me over. She stroked my head, her eyes full of love and sorrow. "Bo, I'm dying. You'll be a man soon, and you'll have to stand on your own. If you get the chance, you run from this place. And one more thing. If you ever get strong enough, you kill Brenda. You kill that wicked woman." I was shocked. No matter how bad Mama was, I couldn't kill her. That was a mortal sin. But Grandma didn't explain. She pressed another small box into my hand. "The snake curse is gone for now, but that was just a warning from the Serpent King. Our family has a blood feud with him. He'll be back for more. You have to protect yourself. This box is your last resort. Don't open it unless your life depends on it." With that, her hand fell to her side, and she was gone. I didn't have time to process her words. All I knew was that Grandma was dead. The last person in the world who was good to me was gone. Mama didn't lift a finger for the burial. In fact, she celebrated. Only Doc Miller helped me lay Grandma to rest. A couple of days later, Grandma's words came true. A giant serpent appeared at the edge of town. It had a man's head on a snake's body, just like the girl. It spoke its voice like grinding stones. "I am a Serpent King. You people of this village defiled my daughter and left her to rot on the mountain. For this, you will all pay in blood." 6. The Serpent King's threat threw the whole town into a panic. Everyone gathered at Henderson's place. Henderson tried to keep everyone calm. He said the serpent was staying outside the town limits, that something was holding it back. He promised to find a conjure man to drive it away. But he was just talking. He had no plan. His first stop was my house looking for Grandma. When he found out she was dead, he demanded Mama hand over the last stick of incense. He figured if it could get rid of the small snakes, it could handle the big one. But Mama was convinced that incense stick was her ticket to a fortune. "My Dale needs that to get a wife," she shrieked. She was stubborn as a mule. Once her mind was made up, there was no changing it. But then Henderson did something I never expected. He pulled Mama into his arms. "Brenda, darling, you don't think I'll take care of our boy? I've had his dowry money saved up for years." Mama's face lit up. The two of them disappeared into the back room, wrapped around each other. So, Dale was Henderson's son. I thought about Dale's age. He would have been conceived right after my daddy died. I remember the old gossip that Mama and Henderson had been sweet on each other back in the day. A hot rage boiled up inside me. The cheating, lying filth. I waited until the middle of the night. Henderson finally came out of the room, looking smug and satisfied, with Mama clinging to his arm. But as soon as she went back inside, he spat on the ground. "Stupid woman," he muttered. "The incense is mine now." He thought he had the answer to all his problems. But I knew better. I recognized that last stick. It wasn't gravebone incense. It was what Grandma called adder's tongue. It didn't banish evil. It fed it. Lighting it would be like throwing gasoline on fire. And it was... The moment the smoke from the adder's tongue reached the Serpent King, he went berserk. He still couldn't enter the town, but he sent a tide of smaller snakes pouring in. They slithered everywhere, their cold eyes searching, biting anyone they found. Venomous snakes, snakes I'd never even seen before. Their poison made people go mad, their eyes turning red and reptilian. They started attacking the unbitten, snarling and drooling. I clutched Grandma's Lucky Charm, huddled in the shed, trembling. Mama and Dale got bit. I could hear them outside, sniffing at the cracks in the door, hissing, wanting to tear me out, skin me, and drink my blood. Dale's heavy body slammed against the flimsy door. But Mama was smarter. She crawled in through the window and lunged at me. In the chaos, I knocked over the last box Grandma gave me. Another incense stick rolled out. A slip of paper with it read, "Burn to see the past." Just as Mama was about to sink her teeth into me, everything outside went silent. She collapsed on the floor. I opened the door, shaking. Dale was lying on the ground, a huge crater in his head. The old axe hanging on the wall must have fallen when he was ramming the door. He was dead, and I didn't feel a thing. No, that's a lie. I felt a strange, satisfying thrill. Ever since I found out he was Henderson's bastard, after years of his abuse, any brotherly feeling I might have had was long gone. Good, I thought with a vicious glee. He's dead. Now Mama will know what real pain feels like. It's what she deserves for cheating on my daddy. I went outside to see what had happened. All the poisoned townspeople were passed out on the ground. Only Doc Miller was still standing. Henderson was back to normal, too. He was sucking up to the doc. Doc, you're a marvel. You don't show your hand often, but when you do, it's a showstopper. Doc Miller just smiled that mysterious smile. Ever since my own boy passed, I figured it was punishment for my sins, so I put away my conjure tools. But with the town in danger, I had to do what I could. Henderson was practically bowing. So, can you do something about that Serpent King out there? My new daughter-in-law is supposed to go visit her family in a few days. That was a big deal. The girl's family was rich and important. You didn't cross people like that. That depends, Doc Miller said slowly. Are you willing to give me what's left of that incense stick? Henderson stammered. I was just trying to be careful with it. I only lit half to see if it would work. Doc Miller didn't say anything, just gave him a look of pure scorn. Henderson, shameless as ever, handed over the half-burnt stick. This alone isn't enough, Doc said. I need a catalyst. Whatever you need, just say the word. Henderson promised. Untouched grain from a sealed crock. The kind evil can't touch. And a bit of clove root. Mix them together, and you have a ward against any foul spirit. Henderson looked troubled. We don't have anything like that in town. The next town over, Mr. Silas is an old friend of mine, Doc said confidently. For me, he won't refuse. Henderson was overjoyed. He knew of Mr. Silas by reputation. But then his face fell. But the Serpent King is out there. Who can get through? Send Caleb, Doc Miller said. He can slip out through the ridge after dark. He has a connection to the snakes, and he didn't drink the shine. The Serpent King won't harm him. My heart jumped into my throat. I looked at Doc Miller, pleading with my eyes. He ignored me. My stomach went cold. Henderson saw my hesitation, probably worried I'd just run off. He came over and put a heavy hand on my shoulder. Caleb, the lives of this whole town are in your hands. He even managed to squeeze out a few fake tears. You look so much like your father. We grew up like brothers, you know. He was the most responsible man I ever met. I know you won't let us down. The hypocrisy made me want to laugh. Brothers? Didn't he know you don't sleep with your brother's wife? By now, the other villagers were waking up. They surrounded me, their word a cage of guilt and obligation, making it sound like if I refused, I'd be a monster. I didn't answer. Their muttering grew louder, angrier. Suddenly, a heart-wrenching scream cut through the air. My boy! What happened to my boy? It was Mama. She'd woken up and found Dale. She ran toward us like a mad woman and threw herself at Henderson. Our son is dead, she wailed. Henderson went white. She's lost her mind, he told the crowd. She's talking crazy. He was powerful and cruel. No one dared to argue. They just nodded. Henderson told me to take Mama home, but she saw me, standing there unharmed, and all her grief turned to rage. Why wasn't it you? She screamed, clawing at me. Did you kill your brother? Was it you? Did you bring that Serpent King here? You snake's son? She beat me, and I couldn't fight back. I just took it. Some of the villagers started murmuring. Maybe she's right. Maybe he did bring the snake here. If that's the case, we should just kill him. He's a menace. They all stood by and watched her. As her fists rained down on me, the last tiny ember of love I had for her went out. A wicked thought took root in my mind. This old town is full of evil people. Why doesn't the Serpent King just come in and kill them all? Just as I was about to pass out from the pain, Doc Miller finally stepped in. He still has to go get the catalyst, he said in a dry voice. What happens if you break him? That seemed to wake them up. They pulled Mama off me. Henderson dismissed the crowd, leaving me lying on the ground, bruised and broken. Doc Miller sighed. He knew I couldn't go home now. Come with me, he said. I was furious with Doc for throwing me to the wolves, but I was too scared to show it. He must have read my face, because he explained with a small, sad smile, that half-stick of incense. It can only protect 2 people out of this town, Caleb, not the whole village. The people here, they have no goodness in them. They stopped honoring the spirits of this place. There used to be a power in that old chapel that kept the Serpent King in check, but not anymore. So they were all doomed. It's not that I won't save them, he continued. It's that I can't. But you, Caleb, I've watched you grow up. You're a good kid. When you get back with the catalyst, we'll leave. We'll get out of here together. I have some money saved up. I can help you get your GED, maybe even send you to a community college. You won't have to be jealous of Henderson's boy then. A lump formed in my throat. He had a whole plan for me, and I've been hating him. I was the worthless one. Doc, I cried, I'll take care of you when you're old. I swear it. He smiled and patted my head. That night, I did as he said. I snuck up the ridge and made my way to the next town. I found Mr. Silas and got the clove root and the seal grain. Mr. Silas thought it was a strange request, but his memory wasn't what it used to be. When he heard my grandma had died, he sighed. All my old friends gone. Just me left. On my way back, I stopped at the old chapel like Grandma told me to pray that Doc and I would make it out alive. I just knelt down when I heard a slithering sound behind me. I turned. It was the serpent girl, and she was alive. I fell back, paralyzed with fear, babbling for her to spare me. But she didn't attack. She just smiled. How about we make a deal? I brought the catalyst back to Doc Miller. He beamed as he took it from me and handed me a glass of water. You must be exhausted, Caleb. Drink this. Rest up. The water was sweet, like it had honey in it. The sweetness spread through my chest, a warm feeling. There were still good people in the world. But as soon as I finished the glass, the room started to spin. The last thing I saw before I passed out was Doc's lips moving. I think he was saying, I'm sorry. When I woke up, I was tied to a table. A cloth was stuffed in my mouth. Doc Miller was kneeling before a small, makeshift altar, chanting. I couldn't make out all the words, but I heard sin and new life. When he finished, he turned and saw my furious eyes. He didn't look guilty at all. He just clasped his hands together and looked up. Thank you, Lord, for finally giving me this chance to bring my son back. He took 9 grains of rice from the crock I'd brought, ground them into a powder with rooster's blood and ash, and mixed it with the crushed remains of the incense stick, rolling it into 3 new sticks. He lit them. The smoke clung to the air, unmoving. He seemed confident, like he had all the time in the world. He pulled the gag from my mouth, letting me have my last words. I started screaming for help. I screamed until my throat was raw, but no one came. Save your breath, Doc said calmly. I told everyone I was performing a powerful ritual tonight. No one is to come out, no matter what they hear. I was filled with despair, but I had to know. Doc, what are you doing? He sighed, and for a moment, he looked like he was about to cry. He reached out to wipe a tear from my eye. I flinched away. He was just as fake as Henderson. His hand dropped. Caleb, I had a son, about your daddy's age. His mother died giving birth to him, and I raised him all by myself. His voice filled with pride. He was so smart, Caleb. Got a full scholarship to Duke. Not some local party school like Henderson's kid. A real, top-tier university. Then his voice broke. But he fell. He fell from the ridge and died. The day before he was supposed to leave for school. I prayed day and night, begged for his life back, for my life to be taken instead. Then I found a way in one of my old books. A life exchange. If I could find a suitable body, I could bring him back. I could barely get the words out. But why me? With my history with your grandma, I never wanted to, he said sadly. But she's the one who succeeded where I failed. You were born on the summer solstice, a body of pure sunfire. Your family line was cursed to end, but your grandma, she wouldn't have it. She grafted a snake's bone into your infant body and performed a soul swap, pulling your father's soul into yours. It was an act against nature. The backlash is what crippled her. My head was reeling. If what he was saying was true, then my grandma was my real mother. The information was too much. My brain just shut down. The incense was burning low. Doc Miller picked up a sharp, curved knife. I'm sorry, Caleb. It's for my son. After you're gone, I'll take good care of your body. I'll see that your soul finds peace, gets a better life next time. You always wanted to see the big city, didn't you? Well, now you will. I want to go, but not like this. The knife sliced into my leg. Blood poured out. I was getting cold, my life draining away. I wasn't going to let it end like this. Serpent Girl, I thought desperately. Help me. I'll take your deal. My consciousness was fading. It felt like 2 souls were tearing each other apart inside me. I tried to hold on, but the pain in my leg was unbearable. Doc was digging for the bone. As the darkness closed in, I mumbled one word, Dad. Doc Miller's face was alight with joy. So, Just hold on a little longer. You're almost there. You'll have a new body soon. He was going to steal my body. Was I just going to let him? Lady of the Pines, I prayed to the spirit of the old chapel. Please help me. Maybe my prayer was answered. I heard Doc Miller roar in anger. Silas, what are you doing? I woke up in the old chapel. The wound on my leg was gone. I could move it just fine. Mr. Silas was sitting cross-legged nearby, his face pale and drawn. He saw I was awake. My debt to your grandmother is paid, he said, his voice cold. I'm leaving now. You're on your own. Doc Miller's body was on the floor, blood trickling from his eyes, ears, and nose, the price of having his ritual interrupted. The incense on the table was snuffed out. Outside, the Serpent King was roaring, a sound of pure fury. To save you, I had to put out the incense, Mr. Silas said. Once lit, a ward like that should never be extinguished. It enrages the spirit and weakens the protection of this place. My body was still weak. Thank you, I whispered. Mr. Silas got up to leave. I knew the town was finished. Mr. Silas, can you take me with you? I pleaded. He shook his head. You have your own fate. It's not my place to change it. He started to walk away. It felt like an excuse. I scrambled after him, my voice thick with desperation. Saving a life is the greatest good a man can do. You can't just leave me here. He turned, his eyes like chips of ice. Don't you try to guilt me, boy. I've heard it all before. Maybe he could ignore one person. But could he ignore the whole town? I started yelling. Doc Miller is dead. Mr. Silas is here to save us. Everybody, come out and thank Mr. Silas. I screamed it over and over, even grabbing his legs so he couldn't leave. He stared at me in shock. Are you trying to repay my kindness with a curse? It won't work. Your fate is sealed. I see death in your face, boy. You have only a few days left. I can't help you. Then you know how I die? He shook his head. Your destiny is clouded. I can't see it clearly. And even if I could, I cannot speak of it. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. So, I was going to die no matter what. But I wasn't ready to give up. The Serpent King's roars had the townspeople on edge. Hearing my shouts, they came running, Henderson in the lead, Mama right behind him. Before Mr. Silas could say a word, I told him everything that had happened, twisting the story to make it sound like Doc Miller had died a hero, fighting the Serpent King. They didn't care about Doc. So the Serpent King is even angrier now? Henderson asked, his voice shaking. What are we going to do? Mr. Silas said nothing. This wasn't his fight, but they all knew his reputation. They weren't about to let their only hope walk away. Henderson gave a signal, and the entire town dropped to their knees. Please, Mr. Silas, save us, they begged, knocking their heads against the rocky ground until they bled. We'll be in your debt forever. Mr. Silas's face turned grim. For a man like him, this was a trap. Accepting their worship meant creating a karmic debt. If he didn't help them now, his own soul would be in peril. He was stuck. Mr. Silas sighed. Fine, I'll do this for my own salvation. But I can't promise I can drive him off. I can only try. The Serpent King is kept out of this town by the spirit of the old chapel. Hundreds of years ago, your ancestors hunted snakes for a living. They nearly wiped out his children, and he came for revenge, almost destroying the town. The chapel was built to hold him back. Then your grandmother, Caleb, she stole his very bone, weakening him further. That's why he's been gone so long. Now he has returned, and he wouldn't be content just to watch from the woods. I heard someone here defiled his daughter. Henderson was about to speak, but Mama cut him off. That serpent girl was a slut. She seduced my boy. He couldn't help himself. And look what happened. She got him killed. Mr. Silas looked at her with disgust. Or maybe your son couldn't control his own lust. That girl was a part of the Serpent King himself. She had no magic, but she was beautiful. It sounds to me like your son and his friend started it. And you were all fools enough to drink wine she'd been steeped in. She put a curse in that jar. Mama, afraid the blame would fall on her, pointed a shaking finger at me. It's not all our fault. If that boy's good-for-nothing grandma hadn't stolen the snake bone in the first place, none of this would be happening. She looked at me with pure hatred, as if I was the source of all their problems. Mr. Silas already hated me for trapping him here. He didn't defend me. He just nodded. That is also a factor. Mama was triumphant. Then give the snake son to the Serpent King. Maybe that will make him happy and he'll leave. The villagers, terrified and looking for a scapegoat, all glared at me. Mr. Silas looked like he'd love nothing more than to see me dead, but he shook his head. It's too late for that. He wants all of you now. Besides, the boy is still useful. Now, listen to my instructions. Mama looked disappointed. She couldn't have me thrown to the monster. Henderson, ever the suck-up, immediately invited Mr. Silas to his home to rest. The villagers left, leaving me alone with Doc Miller's body. No one offered to help bury the man I'd just called their hero. I dragged his body up to the ridge and threw it off the cliff where his son had died. If he loved his son so much, they could rot together. I heard the slithering sound again. It was the serpent girl. Still not ready to accept my deal? Mr. Silas says I'm a dead man walking. I shot back. How is making a deal with you going to change that? She gave me that eerie smile. Your death is indeed close, but it is not unavoidable, and you have no other choice. That conjure man plans to use you to make a redemption incense. The Serpent King is held back by the chapel spirit, but no one in this town has prayed there in years, so its power is weak. The only way to strengthen it is with a powerful offering of merit. I'd wager that man plans to forge that merit into an incense. What does that have to do with me? Redemption incense is a form of sunfire magic, she explained. You were born on the solstice, weren't you? Your body is pure light, pure fire. Your blood and flesh are a natural poison to dark spirits. They're also the perfect catalyst. The more power he needs, the more of you he has to use. How much blood and flesh do you think you have to spare? My blood ran cold. If he did that, I'd be bled dry. My death was at his hands. No wonder he wouldn't tell me. But still, I didn't trust them. An old saying of Grandma's came to mind. Not our kind, not our heart. What if the Serpent King just killed me anyway? I decided to wait to see what Mr. Silas would do. Seeing my hesitation, the serpent girl didn't push. She handed me a piece of shed snakeskin. When you're ready, tear this. I will come. We can make a formal contract to ease your mind. I clutched the translucent skin. How was I going to find a way to live? The next day, Mr. Silas gathered everyone at the old chapel. He instructed them to bathe, fast, and pray before the altar for 6 hours a day. Their combined faith would generate the power he needed. Then, he announced, I will create the redemption incense. I will bind your merit to it with a charm, and when it is lit, its power will drive the Serpent King away for good. He paused. There is one problem. The incense requires a large amount of blood from a male virgin born on the summer solstice as a catalyst. Is there such a person in this town? Before the words were even out of his mouth, Mama pointed at me. Caleb was born on the solstice. Everyone knows it. The villagers all nodded eagerly. Mr. Silas was just putting on a show. A smug little smile played on his lips, as if to say, your turn to be backed into a corner. Mama was desperate to see me dead, to have me join her precious Dale in the grave. You're not going to refuse to give your blood, are you? She challenged. If I said no, they'd tie me down and take it anyway. I forced a smile. It's an honor to help the town. Of course I'm willing. No one would willingly become a human blood bag, but it was all I could do to buy time. Mr. Silas looked at me, his eyes sharp. Then let's begin. The chapel was small, so Henderson organized shifts for the praying. A few others were put in charge of cooking for everyone. For once, the town worked together, each person fighting for their own life. My job was to be the catalyst. Mr. Silas took a knife and made a clean cut on my arm. My blood flowed freely, slowly filling a large bowl he'd placed on the floor. My face grew pale, a chill seeping into my bones. I was about to pass out. He wasn't trying to kill me all at once. When the bowl was full, he told me to stop the bleeding. How many days? I asked. 3, he answered coldly. I couldn't survive 1 day of this, let alone 3. So, my death really is at your hands, I said with a bitter laugh. He ignored me. He took the bowl of blood and went into a side room where Henderson had a fine meal of vegetables and bread waiting for him. I hadn't eaten since the night before. I desperately needed something. It was dinner time. Everyone was gathered outside the chapel, eating from a communal pot. I stumbled over, holding out my bowl, but someone shoved me. I was too weak to even stand up. I fell to the dirt. I could see Mama at a table, eating with relish, acting like I wasn't even there. Finally, the darkness took me. When I woke up, everyone was gone. I was still lying on the ground. Next to me was half a stale bread roll, covered in dirt. I didn't care. I stuffed in my mouth, hot, shameful tears streaming down my face. Fine. Let them all die. When I had a little strength back, I tore the piece of snakeskin. The serpent girl appeared almost instantly. She went and found me some food, knowing I was about to collapse again. These villagers treated me worse than a monster did. What do you need me to do? I asked. 14. Break your virginity, she said simply. Then the incense will be useless. After that, at this exact time, you must do this. She handed me a slip of paper with a time and instructions written on it. She produced a pre-written contract on yellowed parchment, bearing the Serpent King's seal. It was, she said, bound by a power older than the heavens. To break, it would invite damnation. I read it over and over. Seeing no tricks, I signed my name. She gave me my copy. Then, her boneless body pressed against mine, and I pulled her close. 3 days later, I was a ghost, barely able to stand. If it wasn't for the serpent girl sneaking me food and water, I would have already been dead. No one noticed. Today was the day Mr. Silas was going to face the Serpent King. He had plastered the town with yellow paper charms and made all his preparations. He stood at the edge of the town, full of confidence, and lit the redemption incense. He began to chant, "By earth and sky, by holy fire's light, with this incense of merit, I banish this night's blight. Be gone!" But the incense sputtered and died. Something's wrong with the incense. He yelled. Suddenly, he coughed up a huge mouthful of blood and looked in horror toward the ridge. Who broke the statue in the old chapel? It was the last thing he ever said. The Serpent King and 1,000 of his children swarmed over him. I stood on the hillside, watching the beautiful, terrible scene below, and I felt a savage joy. I especially enjoyed the sight of Henderson, his lying mouth stuffed with tiny, biting snakes, his body convulsing in agony. This is what evil people deserve. But one was missing. Brenda. Today was the 1-week anniversary of Dale's death, and she hadn't come out to watch the show. When I got back to the house, she was already covered in snakes. She reached a hand out to me, begging for help. I just smiled a cold, cruel smile. Brenda, do you know who I am? I'm Bull. She looked confused. I decided to explain. Not your worthless son, Caleb. I'm your husband, Bo. You stupid woman. You let him play you for a fool all these years. It was him back then. He was jealous you were going to college, so he took what he wanted from you. Brenda's eyes widened in disbelief and horror, but she couldn't speak. She could never speak again. 15. My revenge was complete. The death curse on me should be lifted. I packed a small bag and walked quickly toward the edge of town, my heart pounding with excitement for the new life ahead of me. I was going to the city. I was going to get my GED, maybe even go to college. I was going to be someone. But the Serpent King blocked my path. I held up my copy of the contract, my hands shaking. We have a deal, Serpent King. The contract clearly states you would save my life. Are you going to break your oath? You're on the verge of transforming into a dragon. Do you want to risk the wrath of heaven? The Serpent King actually laughed. My oath is already fulfilled. What wrath is there to fear? It says I would save you, and I did. Did you really think that old conjure-man could have gotten into this town on his own? I let him in because I was afraid you would die before I was ready. Your grandmother stole my bone when I was at my weakest. Now, I'm just taking back what's mine. My legs gave out, and I fell to the ground, my eyes still fixed on the road, leading away from town, away from this hell. My last thought was a bitter one. So this was it. This was how I was meant to die. And God, I didn't want to go.